Órale, bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. I'm your host, Jorge Martin, and today we're going Motown, Motor City, Detroit Rock City. We are going to go talk to the Lions in our Insider series, and we got our buen amigo, Mike Payton of Pride of Detroit and SB Nation, and he's here to give us all the lowdown on what's going on with the Lions. And as I promised, I told him he could talk about biting kneecaps as many times as possible. But first off, Mike, bienvenido. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jorge. I appreciate it.
No, this is awesome. So, this has been one of the more interesting teams during the NFL offseason. Obviously, there was the I don't even know what to call spectacle, the initial press conference with head coach Dan Campbell, who's quite the personality, and they definitely made a splash. But now you get they're in the nitty gritty. They've gone through OTAs, they've gone through almost 2 weeks of practices in training camp. What has been the vibe been like with the new coaching change?
Oh, it's been just incredibly different. Under Matt Patricia, things were a little somber around the training camp area, the locker room. Definitely, guys were not enjoying this, the type of way that he used to coach, and guys are having a lot more fun now, and you could see it. You could see it. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's they're participating in like TikTok videos, and they're doing all sorts of things. With the team as a team. It just there's a real vibe in the air that guys are just having fun for the first time in years. And that was something that certainly chased a lot of great players away in the last couple of years in Detroit. Guys like Darius Slay and guys like Quandre Diggs and even, Matthew Stafford too. So having somebody here that who also used to play and knows how to coach and how a player wants to be coached, that's making a huge difference. And the guy, I know a lot of people in the national media certainly didn't like Dan Campbell's introductory presser or some of the other things that he's done, like wearing a racing helmet. But he is certainly endeared himself to Detroit Lions fans in short order.
And how about, you talk about the fun aspect, but I mean, he also seems to give off kind of this hard-nosed feel is that kind of permeated onto the practice field?
Yeah, it's hard-nosed in the sense of it's not like, hey, run a million laps and let's build a conditioning hill in the in the training camp facility like Patricia. It's more of a I want you guys to come out here and kind of bust your butt and if you guys start swinging at each other, then you start swinging at each other. That's going to fire him up. I mean, the other day we had a little bit of a slap fight between rookie Amon-Ra St. Brown, who you guys probably know out in LA, and Ife Melanfawu. Those two kind of went at it and a little bit. Just nothing crazy. Just two guys who are competitive, kind of flaring up a little bit, and Campbell loved that, and everybody else loved it too. I mean, he's bringing this weird culture here that it is kind of a meathead culture, but it works. It's fun, and I don't know. It seems to be the most fun that Lions fans have had here in a long time.
Okay, so Mike, Jared Goff coming to the Lions, there's been a great familiarity with Matthew Stafford for these past, I think you said it was 12 years. One of the best arms, one of the best leaders. He is really endeared. Stafford has really endeared himself to the Lions. So when you come to you bring in Goff, for also a number 1 draft pick. He's going to be 27 years old this year, so still very much in his prime. The past couple of years have not been what people on the Rams side have wanted to see. For me, from watching it seemed like the deep ball left, and I didn't understand why. So when you look at the guy you've seen in training camp so far and the guy you've seen in film, you've seen, all the way back to, I think 2017 film on this guy. What are the things that you've liked that you think are going to translate to this team this year?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the deep ball, and obviously Matthew Stafford has a heck of an arm and is fully capable of throwing that deep ball. And for the last 6 years, I've covered the Lions, and all I've really ever seen is Matthew Stafford. So I haven't had a chance to see Jared Goff until I started getting into this film study and started seeing some of the things he's doing at training camp. And the big thing that I've come away with is I'm shocked at some of the throws he's able to make. Like, I just didn't know that Goff had that talent, and he is making some deep throws. He's making some tight window throws. He's doing all sorts of things that are certainly, getting people a little bit more excited. It's all going to depend on what he does this year, obviously, if he's going to be the guy of the future. But so far, it's looking like he's a guy with a chip on his shoulder. He's a young guy who he's not giving up. Some guys get traded and they sort of sulk and sort of just kind of give up on their careers. But this guy, he's already sort of having fun meshing with Dan Campbell, meshing with Anthony Lynn. And I think Anthony Lynn, by the way, somebody who, whose offense was predicated a lot on the deep throw and a lot of play action type plays last year with Justin Herbert. I think him and Goff are going to work out perfectly together. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it works. But so far, I think the report on Jared Goff is that he's decent and he's looking better than anybody thought.
What kind of I think you mentioned a little bit, and that's something that I've seen in the past, the play action being a big part of his game. He's always the past several seasons has been one of the league leaders in that. What do you again see? I would imagine this is going to be a big part. And kind of how much do you think the passing game is going to be important, especially considering the fact that Anthony Lynn also, was a running back, and you would think, oh, maybe he's going to want to ground and pound.
Well, I think they're going to try to do what most offenses try to do, right? They're going to try to balance it out, have a balanced attack. And with DeAndre Swift and Jamaal Williams in the backfield and rookie Jamar Jefferson, I think that you're going to see a run-driven team here. They're going to run to set up the pass, especially if they're going to do things like play action. So I think like if I'm drafting for fantasy, I don't know if I'm going to pick Jared Goff just based off of who his receivers are and who his running backs are. And I think this team is built to run the ball. At least they want to be built to run the ball. And I think that's sort of going to designate how everything else works on this offense. So I don't know how right now, just judging from training camp, there's going to be a lot of deep balls. He's going to throw that deep ball again. But it seems like they're going to be more of a run first team.
Yeah, I kept thinking, where would he be recommended? And he's probably a quarterback, and he's not going to be someone I'd look at as a starter in a single quarterback league, but maybe in a multiple quarterback, he could be someone to be that second quarterback to come in. With you talked about the deep ball. This is going to be the last Goff question. With Goff, throwing the deep ball. Could there be some shootouts? Because this defense, and I'll ask you about the defense a little bit more seriously in depth in a few minutes, but there could be some shootouts. Do you see some Goff being able to step up to the plate on this one?
Yeah, I kind of do, especially judging how he performed at the team's Ford Field practice the other day. He went 5 for 5 right off the bat, had some deep throws. Threw a touchdown pass to TJ Hockenson. He looked pretty good. He looks like he's a guy who has a handle of an offense that's new to him, and I'm certainly surprised to see that. Especially, he's not the only guy in this offense that's new to this offense. So there's a lot of guys here that are new to the team and obviously new to this whole scheme. But he certainly has looked like a guy who's had control of this team so far, and I don't know if I trust him as much in a shootout as I would Matthew Stafford, but time will tell on that. But yeah, I think with the Lions defense the way that it is, there's going to be a lot of situations where it could be a shootout.
Well, let's go to the running game. And you talked about how this team is really built to run. And one of the big mysteries, and I'm hoping you can help just kind of decipher this a little bit. DeAndre Swift, one of the most decorated running backs going in last year's rookie class. I mean, just stud out of Georgia. Had a good second half of the season, but you had Jamaal Williams come in, and there's all this A back, B back talk. There's all this, they're 1-2 punch kind of thing. So many people want to love DeAndre Swift, especially with the offensive line getting another upgrade. Is he someone that we can really look at as being kind of a top running back? Maybe definitely one of the top 2 starters on a fantasy team.
Yeah, I certainly think that he can be. It's really going to depend on how this offense is going to run. And certainly when you look at Dan Campbell coming from New Orleans, New Orleans is a team that has been running back by committee for years and years and years. So I think that with Jamaal Williams coming in, you're going to see a lot of that sort of thing in Detroit as well. It's going to be like that 1-2 punch. It's going to be, let's ride the hot hand. Let's I don't think it's going to be such as Jamal's a third down guy or anything like that. It's going to be who's hot. Let's roll with them. And DeAndre has the ability to get hot. We saw that last year, and we also saw how egregiously misused he was when Matt Patricia and Darrell Bevel went with Adrian Peterson as the starting back, which still doesn't make any sense because whenever DeAndre Swift was in that game, you could tell that the offense ran a hell of a lot better with him out there. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, but just kind of judging off the Dan Campbell's past and how much Anthony Lynn has used the run in the past. Granted, he hasn't had very many great running backs in a while since Melvin Gordon kind of walked away. But yeah, I think that it's going to be a 1-2 punch. But eventually, I think that DeAndre Swift will show himself to be the top guy out there.
How much of the passing game? Because he was very involved in the passing game last year, and obviously you mentioned Dan Campbell coming from the Saints, Alvin Kamara, a very big part of the passing game, and Anthony Lynn had Austin Eckler, who was also a big part of the passing game. Do you see Swift really being a big part of that?
Yeah, and he certainly shines in the passing game because it allows him to get in space, and when he gets into space, he can make some guys miss. So, yeah, I would definitely imagine that he's going to be more a part of the passing game than Jamaal Williams is going to be, just with the ability to do the things that he can do out in space. So, absolutely. And during training camp, you've sort of seen, some of those sets that some passes underneath and things of that nature to DeAndre Swift. So, yeah, they're definitely going to be thrown to the running back.
Well, let's go over to the receivers. I think there's kind of like a 3-headed monster that's being talked about a lot in the fantasy community: Rashad Perryman, Tyrell Williams, and the rookie Amon-Ra St. Brown, who you referenced a little bit ago. How do you see? And I think we know who the target leader, and it's probably not at this position, but when it comes down to it, how do you see the targets being broken up between these three? And will there be kind of someone who's kind of an alpha dog out of these three?
Well, right now, believe it or not, I think it's going to be the rookie. I think it's going to be St. Brown. Just kind of judging off some of the ways that him and Jared Goff have sort of brought each other along. Early on, Jared Goff was kind of using St. Brown like he would use Cooper Kupp in LA. And I think that he's a little bit more steady out there. He's going to be a guy he can catch the ball. I mean, the guy every day after practice, he catches 202 balls off the jugs machines. He does that every day. It's insane. But the guy can certainly catch. And when you got a guy like that who you can trust, who's got hands you can trust, you're going to throw to him a lot. And the fact of the matter is Rashad Perryman and Tyrell Williams are two capable receivers, but they're two guys that have struggled a lot in their careers. And this is kind of almost like a last-ditch effort for them, especially Perryman, who's been on multiple teams in the last few years. I would say St. Brown is going to get the most receptions out of all these guys. But having said that, they brought in these guys because they're fast. So I'm certain they're going to aim to throw the deep ball to guys like Rashad Perryman and Tyrell Williams. So, if you're looking for yards, then it might be one of those guys. But if you're looking for guys who's going to have catches, it's probably going to be St. Brown.
So, Mike, TJ Hockenson, one of the most decorated tight ends from last season. Just, he on a lot of draft boards right now. He's going off as the number 4 tight end on this season. What do the reports have been glowing. I think one of the recent articles in Pride of Detroit is the fact that he's been one of the best players in training camp. What do you expect out of him this season?
I expect that this is going to be the season that TJ Hockenson makes that jump from being a pretty good tight end to a star. Like this is the year that he's going to be a household name after this season, I think. And I don't know if he'll be the best tight end in the league. I think that's still, that's George Kittle all the way. And certainly Travis Kelce is there as well, but and there's some others obviously, but I think he's going to be one of the guys that is going to certainly show up, and he's already started to do that during camp, and you could just see it. And the guy is one of the big things that he's corrected that I think that irked a lot of Lions fans last year, and even myself, that just writing about it, is that he would always catch the ball and then fall down. It was the most annoying thing in the world to a lot of people. And he's already started to correct that. He's starting to work on his yards after catch game. He's starting to kind of work on staying up, and taking the hit instead of going down. And I think that's going to be a major jump for him. And I think, obviously he's already a Pro Bowl tight end last year. I think that he's going right back to that Pro Bowl this year. And I would definitely make sure you get him on your fantasy team if you can, because he is going to be a guy that is going to see a lot of targets.
We've talked about pretty much the main men on this team. Any sleepers that you can see, or are these going to be kind of like the high profile guys from the Lions perspective?
Well, I mentioned Perryman earlier being kind of the guy that is he struggled a lot, but I think that this offense is going to really work to his strengths, which is him getting out there and running and showing that speed. And he's certainly a guy that is very fast. And I think that is really going to be I think it could be his moment. I don't think that he's going to be a superstar Pro Bowl wide receiver, but I think that he definitely has the opportunity here in Detroit to get the most targets that he's ever gotten, to get the most receptions that he's ever gotten. I think this is going to be a career year for him. How good that is, I don't know yet. We'll see. But I certainly think that he's a guy to watch. The offense is really tailor-made for what his ability is.
Let's go to the O-line. It's considered one of the strengths of this team. You got the first-round draft pick, Penei Sewell, who some people have been calling him a future Hall of Famer, which I always think is funny to listen to. But when it comes to when you've got 2 anchors on the tackle side, and this is an offensive line that's ranked number 10, how important is this team to just kind of not just building an offensive philosophy for this season, but just for the future ahead? And how do you see this kind of where do you see this team being strong, the line being strongest?
Well, as they always say, games are won in the trenches. And I think that the Lions it's taken a long time, but they're finally building a really great offensive line. And certainly Taylor Decker is a great left tackle. He scored pretty high on Pro Football Focus last year. I'm not sure what the grade was, but it was in the elite section. And obviously Penei Sewell has already started to kind of show off at right tackle, and I think he's handling it quite well. But it's Frank Ragnow. It's the man right in the middle, the best center in the league, no doubt about it. He's the anchor of this offensive line for sure. And everything is going to run through that guy, no doubt about it. But where they're weak is their 2 guards spots. Right now, it's kind of everybody's not really sure who's going to even be in those spots. So it's going to be a little rough in that section, But still, that offensive line is going to be a key point to this team, and they're going to need to stay healthy, and we'll see where that goes.
Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. I mean, this is a team that was number 30 in points allowed last year. The people were able to do the opposition was pretty much able to do whatever they wanted to from pass and run side. A lot of times, Dan Campbell talked about the toughness, and obviously the defensive side is a big focal point. Where do you see kind of like this? Is this defense going to be still kind of a rebuild, or any strong points from either against the run or the pass?
Yeah. Well, I don't see this defense shooting up to top 10 or anything like that. I think that they could be, somewhere in the 20 region at best, maybe middle of the road. They still have a long way to go. This is good. This is going to be it's going to be a marathon more than it's going to be a sprint. So far, I would have to say the defensive line with guys like Romeo Okwara, Michael Brockers, who are obviously another Rams guy that you're familiar with, Nick Williams, and some of the other guys, the rookies, Onzawerke and Onzarike. Sorry, I'm still getting used to that. And Aleem McNeil. Some of these guys are starting to show up, and I think that defensive line could be a real strong point. But the secondary guys like Jeff Okudu was the number 3 overall pick last year, has definitely shown up looking a lot better than he did last year. He's really figuring it out, and it's been really nice to see. And also, Tracy Walker, who was a real bright spot for the team a couple years ago, had a really bad season last year. He's also starting to look a lot better. But I still think that this Lions defense is a long way to go, and I certainly wouldn't draft them. I don't know if I'd carry them at all this year. And so it's going to be interesting. I think that you mentioned shootouts earlier. I think it's pretty safe to say that there's going to be some situations where the Lions, especially playing against teams like Green Bay, are going to be in some shootout situations.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, whenever they were one of the 5 defenses toward the back half of the season last year. It's like, oh, they're playing Detroit. I'm starting all my players against Detroit. So anybody,
it was a fair bet.
Yeah. So DFS, I was targeting those guys. Everything. Well, let's kind of close out with a fun one. Everybody loves tacos. Everybody loves. I've met. I've only got about 8 or 9 more teams to go through, and everybody's had a great recommendation on tacos. So, Michigan is on the other side as far as being close to Mexico, but can you get good tacos, and what are some of your favorites?
Well, my wife is Mexican, so all my in-laws are Mexican. So I've eaten my fair share of Mexican food, and we, at least in the town that we have a very high population of Hispanic people. So we have quite a few taco spots. There's one that my wife and I go to called Tacos El Cuñado. We love that place. We go there all the time. There's a lot of things I've learned having a Mexican wife that I did, like when I was growing up, it was, eggs and pancakes for breakfast and stuff like that. With my wife, we're having carnitas in the morning and tamales and stuff like that. These are things that just seem like dinner foods to me. But I've certainly enjoyed the cuisine that she's brought into this relationship. But yeah, there's a lot of great taco places around here. You'd be surprised.
What are your favorite types?
Well, I'm a El Pastor guy myself. I really like some El Pastor. I also I love carnitas, as I mentioned before. Those are probably my 2 favorites. Carne asada, obviously, too. You can't go wrong with some steak. But I think El Pastor is probably my favorite.
Yeah, and with your wife being Mexican, you've gotten the real deal. So with her and her family, a lot of times the homemade stuff is even better than the restaurants. So you scored.
Oh, absolutely. Although sometimes she has me trying stuff like tongue and cheek, and I don't know how I feel about that, man. Like the cheek is all right, the tongue I'm not a fan of.
My parents, loved it and love it. My father passed, but and I can't, I used to like it when I was a kid, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, something. It
doesn't work. Doesn't work.
Yeah. And if somebody ever mentions sesos, It tastes good, but beware.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to ask my wife when I get off of here what that is.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. If somebody gives it to you, you just you eat it, but and then ask a question later, and you're like, oh wow. So, oh man. Well, Mike, mi amigo, this is great. Thank you so much. Thank you for kind of working, kind of trudging on through a couple of Wi-Fi issues that we
Oh,
had.
no problem.
Let us know where we can find your great work, your Twitter handle, and also about your pod.
Yeah. Well, the podcast is called Man Coverage. We do 17 episodes a season, one each week during the NFL season. We talk to some former NFL players, Detroit media members, some national media members as well. Last year we had some great guests like Herman Moore and Josina Anderson. We had a lot of great people on the pod last year, and we're looking forward to having a lot of great people on this year as well. You can find me always at Pride of Detroit. I've got a ton of stuff on there for you. I write at least 2 columns a week, and you can find me on Twitter at pod_Payton. I'm happy to talk to anybody, even if you're not a Lions person. I'm happy to talk to football with anybody or tacos or anything. So come follow me, come talk.
Well, one of my cousins, actually the commissioner of our family league, which was our Familia League, which was the inspiration for this podcast, is a dyed-in-the-wool Lions fan. So Primo Victor, this episode's for you. So maybe he's still got a Barry Sanders avatar as his for his handle on his fantasy football team. So
Victor, he knows what's up. He knows what's up.
He knows what's going on. Maybe DeAndre Swift gets close to there for a season or two. So fingers crossed on that one. Fingers crossed.
So big shoes there.
Big shoes. Well, familia, eso es todo for our show. Otra vez, thank you so much to Mike for joining us, and make sure you're following us. And special thanks to Anchor for being our hosting network for our independent podcast. Also, thank you to YouTube for putting our faces out there. Please make sure to subscribe on YouTube, on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, you can find original content at familiaffb.com. You can find me at Jorge Martin 17 on Twitter, as well as our Familia at Familia FFB on Twitter and Instagram. Otra vez, Mike, fue un gran placer, mi amigo. Gracias otra vez. Hopefully you have a very interesting team to cover this season. So, and not just the press conference, not just the post-game press conferences.
I'm certainly hoping so.
All right, everybody. Gracias. Remember, todos somos familia. Salud.